Today at Manchester Theatres, I am so pleased, and I have to say a little bit in awe, because I am here with the award-winning writer, John Godber. Now, John is one of the most performed writers in the English language, with his plays being performed literally across the globe. He has won Olivier's for his plays, 7 Los Angeles Drama Critics Circle Awards, and it is no wonder, because we are talking shows such as Bouncers, Shakers, Teachers, Up and Under, April in Paris, September in the Rain, Gym and Tonic. Honestly, the list goes on and on. Now, John also writes for screen. He has written My Kingdom for a Horse. Up and Under, of course, was turned into a feature film, and we have the BAFTA award-winning Odd Squad as well. But it all started for John as a drama teacher, where, of course, he won awards. Just about every award with the National Student Drama Festival. He has gone on to be a professor for contemporary theatre at Liverpool Hope University, a visiting professor at Hull University for drama. He is a fellow for the Royal Society of Arts, and he is artistic director of Hull Truck Theatre Company. And I still can't quite believe that I am here chatting with you, John. So thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Nice
So we are here to talk about 2 of your plays that we are lucky enough to have coming to Manchester at the same time. So we've got Bouncers coming to the Octagon Theatre, Bolton from the 9th of April, and then your new play, Do I Love You, coming to Home from the 10th of April. So is this just like a happy coincidence for us that we get 2 of your works at the same time, or has it been really coordinated?
No, it's a happy coincidence. I don't know why we used to go to Manchester a long time ago. I mean, years and years ago, but for some reason we've not been able to get onto the Manchester scene. And then let's talk about Do I Love You first, because that's the newest play. I've been a Northern Soul fan for a long time, and I've written a number of plays where Northern Soul is featured. But I wanted to finally write one, especially about my interest in Northern Soul. So the opportunity to go to Manchester, which of course is only a spit from Wigan, and all that, was a wonderful opportunity that we couldn't turn down. And I know the home venue, so we're really looking forward to getting there. I've had plays on before at Bolton Octagon, and I think they've done Bouncers before, but
They have, yeah.
But never with my own company. Which just one errata to the introduction. I left Hull Truck about 11 years ago, so I now steer my own ship.
Right.
We still have I still live in Hull or nearby, but yeah, it's very much a family business now, and it was my daughter Liz who produces our work who got us in at home, so we really can't wait to get there.
So tell us about the story. It follows a group of students who are putting on a college project, aren't they? And they discover Northern Soul. So are you able to tell us anything about the story?
I'm a genuine Northern Soul fan, and I think that's really cool. When we first started the play, when we first did it, we took it to Blackpool, and we took it to Blackpool to the Grand on the weekend of the Wigan 50th anniversary celebration.
Wow.
But we didn't want to. I didn't want to do it in the big theatre. I wanted to do it in the studio.
Yeah.
They've got an 80-seat studio, and I said, "Well, take it to Blackpool, and if people smell that it's authentic, we'll feel validated."
Yeah.
So during COVID, this is how much of a kind of fan of Northern Soul I am. I became a bit of a fan of a YouTube channel by 2 dancers and actors called Sal and Pops, and one of them is a really nice young lady from Stoke called Sally Malloy, and she was the Northern Soul dance champion 2022, and they do these things, these kind of like TikToky things to Northern Soul tracks, and I became a bit fixated. Anyway, I sent Sally an email saying, "Look, I'm writing this play about Northern Soul. Would you come and talk to us about it, and would you choreograph some of the dancing? Because it's not just the music with Northern Soul, it's the whole sort of the kit and the dancing. And for me, the dancing had got to be utterly authentic. Otherwise, people would smell that it was false. It was a lot of middle-class part trying to pretend to be Northern Soul fans. So Sally came up to Hull, spent a couple of days with us, taught the cast how to dance. The cast were exhausted by the time she'd finished with them. She'd not even broke sweat, as it happened. And one of the cast is my daughter, who was incredibly fit, but she was really struggling. And I sat down and I told her the story about three young people who've been to university, they come back, they can't get jobs, they come back and they start to work in a burger bar in Hull. And they listen to the soul music that's being played in a burger bar. Let's imagine it's something like Kentucky Fried Chicken or that kind of thing. And they say, what's this track that we can hear? And it's Frank Wilson's classic song, Do I Love You, which is arguably the most famous of all Northern Soul tracks. And then generally they start to get involved, and they've done an A-level project on mods when they were at school. So they've done Paul Weller, they've done The Who, they've done Quadrophenia, they've done all that kind of thing. And one of them says, hey, listen, there's a soul club, shall we go to it? And they're no, let's not go. So eventually they go to a Northern Soul all-nighter in Cleethorpes, right? And they get hooked on this type of music, but they get hooked also on the lifestyle, on the community, on how they're able to be accepted into a world that's very, very closed, but it opens up and it becomes very giving to them. And they become fascinated by the ability to dance as good as people like a fellow called Steve Hines, who was also a top Northern Soul dancer, or John Moss, who looks a bit like me, but if you Google John, he's an absolutely phenomenal Northern Soul stomper. So that they, and for them, the outcome of all this interest is they want to go to Blackpool, to the Tower Ballroom, to a Northern Soul night, and they don't want to feel like they are fish out of water. And in a way, the tininess of the story belies the kind of depth of the reach of Northern Soul music and the Northern Soul community. So we did it last year, and honestly, I mean, you know, I've had some successes and people come and see my plays, but it's been utterly extraordinary. Just the type of people. We did it in Bridlington because I went to an all-nighter in Brid, and yes, I have been to all-nighters, and yes, I could do the stomping. Not so good now. My knees are playing me up. And there were some fellas who came to see the play, and they were arguing outside the theatre afterwards. And I said, "What are you arguing about, lad?" They said, "Oh, that's so and so with the play." And I said, "Well, I think this." And they said, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm John. I wrote it." And one of them, I'm a big fella, and one of them grabbed me and hugged me, and he said, "I've never seen a play before."
Wow.
But there was something in that play that made me cry.
Yeah.
And it was obviously the music, and obviously there's a real special relationship between working people and that kind of music. And particularly now politically, we're in a very similar place to where we were in 1972, that when I first came across Northern Soul music. So the play is funny, a lot of dancing, a lot of authentic stuff. But it's also a political punch to what opportunities our young people have got. And, you know, as a drama teacher yourself, you realise that you never lose that.
No.
You know, you never lose what possibilities of young working class people nowadays actually got, especially if they haven't got a bank of mum and dad behind them.
Yeah, it's tough. It is tough. And that's why your plays just connect, because they're real people in real situations, but you find the warmth and the humor in life, really.
Well, that's kind of it to say. So, I mean, that's where they're coming from. You know, I remember I did a Guardian lecture at Edinburgh in 1988, and I wrote a play about my mum. I'm from a mining background, you know, and my dad's 93, and I see him 3 or 4 days a week. I'm caring for him, so it's interesting. And we did this lecture, and Michael Billington from the Guardian said, "Why do I write working class cliches?" And it was odd because one of the casts in the play I taught at school. And in fact, he was the original hobby that I based the character on.
Yeah.
And he turned to Michael Billington and said, "You do not know what you're talking about."
Well, yeah.
We've got this, we have these critics who've got all the degrees and all the gongs and all the bits, but they really do not know what is happening down in the local Greg's.
No, no, not at all, not at all. And this play is gonna, honestly, I can't wait. It's just gonna kind of bring back, well, it's never really gone, but really bring that movement to this whole new generation. And you've mentioned the songs. I mean, I've seen the playlist. I mean, come on. I mean, you've got the ones that people will know now: Rogers, Sister Sledge, David Bowie, Frankie Valli, all these other people. How on earth did you choose what songs to put in there?
Well, because I'm a genuine fan. That's why.
There's so many.
I know. I listened to thousands of Northern Soul tracks. Pay particular attention to Don Thomas's "Come On Train." I mean, it's just it's unbelievable as a song. And for me, my favorite. I mean, listen, "Do I Love You" is great, but it's easy in a way. "Out on the Floor," Dobie Gray. We don't use that because again, that's a bit easy. That was a film written for the BBC by Debbie Horsfield back in the 1980s. That's when I first came across Northern Soul as a kind of dramatic outlet. But for me, you might know Toby Legend's "Time Will Pass You By." You should have a listen to that one.
I'm not too sure, but
it's such
I will look at it.
Yeah, look at it because it's written by a bloke from Blackpool. So you've got these absolutely fantastic Northern Soul songs that are written by people from the North. And it's a bit like, do you know Rod Templeton?
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you know that he's from Cleethorpes? And he wrote
Didn't know that, no.
Yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous that the bloke who wrote most of Thriller is from Cleethorpes.
Yeah.
You
you just assume he's Hollywood or something.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So out of this working class kind of, if you like, culture or mindset, or you might even say drudgery, springs forth fantastic creativity.
It does, and I think when you've got music that music connects anyway. We know that, but this music, you're going to have people who, like you, just genuinely love Northern Soul coming along, but it is for any age, this, isn't it? You don't have to know Northern Soul. You can come along and learn the way that the characters do.
Well, listen, we did it in Doncaster to 600 a night. They weren't all Northern Soul fans, but you could feel them. What happens? It's interesting this, because when I first went to Hull Truck, I'd played a lot of rugby union. I'd had trials at rugby union and all that. But I know that Hull is a big rugby league place, as is a lot of, St Helens, Wigan and all that. So I wrote a play up and under, obviously, about rugby league. And all the rugby fans came along and they wanted to smell out our middle classness, if you like. They wanted to smell out that we were tossers and we really didn't know what we were talking about. And as the play went on, they kind of went, hang on a minute, maybe they do know what they're talking about. And then I wrote a play called Blood, Sweat and Tears, which is about judo. And I got to know Karen Briggs, who was the 8 times world judo champion.
Wow.
And she taught my wife, who was in the other room, she taught Jane judo because Jane was in the play. So the first night, again, we had about 200 in the audience, and they were all judo black belts. And you could feel them smelling out the falseness of it. And once they saw it was authentic, they went, blimey, that's amazing, because we can only just remember the moves, let alone remember the moves and do some lines that we've remembered at the same time. And the same is true of the Northern Soul thing, that once the audience sit down and think, hang on a minute, we're all right, they know what they're doing, it's not a parody, it's honest and it's true. And for me, all plays should be like that.
They should.
Yeah. If they don't ring true to the people who they're about, I wonder why we're doing it.
Yeah, that's so simple when you say it like that, but yeah, it's true. It's so true. So we can catch Do I Love You at home it's not on for a long run, so people grab your tickets. It's the 10th to the 13th. It is going to sell out, so I'd grab them.
We've been to see Do I Love You.
Do I Love You?
It was absolutely fantastic.
I thought it was absolutely brilliant. My husband used to do Northern Soul. He'd have loved it. It would have, the music, the dancing, the acting was really good.
Amazing. The 3 people in the act, it was just really, really good. Really got the feel of it. It was brilliant.
Absolutely amazing. And the actresses and the actor they were all, you wanted to be there.
We like soul music, we like Tamil Motown music, so we've been reliving our youth.
And it brought back some memories about Bally High, Romeo's.
In the last probably 30 years, I've been quite big into Northern Soul, and a lot of the things I was talking about, like your Blackpools, and to hear it being portrayed out there, it was just like...
It was really good, really enjoyable. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Loved it.
Into that music, into the scene when we was young kids and what have you. So yeah, it brought a lot of memories back and really good.
We're in our 70s now, anyway. You know, it's 40 years ago, 40, 50 years ago.
Brings it back again, doesn't it? Every decade they just played with your emotions. It's just brilliant.
But when I stood up to applaud, I did have a little boogie there.
Our youth, our nights of going to Northern Soul dances, and we still listen to that music, so it's what... Keep faith.
We then have bouncers at the Octagon from the 9th. So we've got Les and Judd and Ralph and Lucky Eric coming along. So for anyone who might not know bouncers, can you give us a little bit of an idea of that story and what that one's about?
Yeah, well, Bouncers is about bouncers. Bouncers is unlikely enough a comedy about 4 blokes who stood on the door of a disco in the 80s, wondering what life's all about, and they perform the evening. And all the people they see coming into the club on that particular evening. And I guess Bouncers is the play I'm most well known for. It's on the GCSE syllabus. I'm an A-level theatre practitioner, blah, 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 and all that, which is fantastic. You know, it's great. This is a very good production of Bouncers. The cast are fantastic. They really are fantastic. James directed it. And we've put it back in the 80s. And the reason we put it back in the 80s is because actually, if I was to rewrite Bouncers today, I couldn't do it because things have changed so much. You know, our sensibilities around Me Too have changed. Our sensibilities around, you know, wokeness and how we are with women and how we are with alcohol and drugs and clubbing and all that kind of thing. So we did consider updating it, but it's a different play. It would be a completely different world. So we've put it back in the 80s and we've kind of bookended it with a comment saying, you know, what's really changed? And actually, in terms of behaviour, nothing's changed. Our behaviour, you know, still lads going out, having a skinful, girls having too much to drink, eating a pizza, going home, throwing up in a taxi. I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a great night out to watch. It's probably a great night out to do. But no, we're looking forward to bringing it to Bolton because I think they'll get it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't mean because years and years ago I was in Bolton. I thought, there's a lot of clubs in Bolton, and there's a lot of pubs in Bolton, and there's a lot of bouncers on doors in Bolton, as there are all over the north. So I think they'll really respond very positively to it, and we can't wait to get there.
Yeah, and you mentioned that. So with this, you've got these 4 lads, these bouncers, and they present the story, don't they? So when this is like one of the styles that you're kind of known for, where you get the characters presenting a story, so in doing so, they're able to become all these different characters themselves that they're playing. So it kind of feels like, yes, it's multi-rolling, but it feels like it's beyond that because there's a purpose behind it with them telling the story. And why I've just always been interested as to your sort of thoughts behind that, as to why you don't write it with all these additional roles for other actors to come in, whereas the people can tell you the story.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I guess the short answer is economic.
Yeah.
So it's a cast of 4 rather than a cast of 34. Yeah. So that's one thing. I guess the most cogent answer is I was really influenced by Brecht as a student. I went to Breton to train as a teacher, then I did a master's degree at Leeds, and I was a student, PhD student under a fellow called Mike Patterson, who was the sadly no longer with us, but he was the world expert on German theatre. Mike exposed me to Brecht's work, in particular the Messenkampf dialogues, and through that the Lehrstück, which are the learning plays of Brecht, which he took into workplaces. So, you know, when I was teaching, I kind of wanted to do plays that you could do anywhere, like stick it in the back of my car and we'd take it to a youth club, or we'd take it to Edinburgh, or no cost. That's how it all started. And the idea of telling a story objectively, so you could say, basically, the whole point of Brecht is to say to an audience, have you seen what's going on? Have you seen this? Rather than being immersed, you know, Aristotelian style, in a character, which kind of asks the same question. Brecht turns to the audience and says, look at this, have you seen what these are doing? And to me, that became really, really attractive and also doubly theatrical. Because in a way, that's Shakespearean. You know, when he comes on and he says, you know, oh, but for a muse of fire, when I come on again, we're in France.
Yeah.
You know, when you dissect all the poetry and the hyperbole and the iambics and all that, essentially that's what you're asking the, you know, we're in France now, by the way. And so in Bouncers, there's some writing where they say Barbers. So you immediately think we're in the Barbers. Yeah. And I do it in Teachers, you'll recall, because at the beginning, Salty, Gale and Nobby say this play's called Teachers.
Yeah,
so
they're telling you.
Oh yeah, it is called Teachers. Yeah, there's no kind of illusion.
Yeah,
about it. It's absolutely like meeting a bloke in a pub. What's the story? The story's called Teachers. Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll go with that. Now, weirdly, by being more open palm about it, you create a double illusion. Because you say this play's called Teachers. Okay, it's called Teachers. Actually, it's called Teachers, and they're going to be teachers, and we're watching these kids pretend to be teachers. So it kind of creates its own kind of paradox.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, and I've written, you know, to be honest with you, when I go see a play and it's set in somebody's house, I just think, oh God, I've just left my own house to go and sit in somebody else's house. You know, but if I go into a theatre and it's a black box, I think, oh, fantastic, we could go anywhere. You know, and that's where the multi-role playing came from. Yeah. It came from this academic interest in what is the nature of illusion.
Yeah, really. And it's brilliant because I mean, for an actor, of course, they're getting to, you know, do all these different parts, but to me, it takes it back to what acting is, and it is that idea of suspending disbelief and a chair, you know, especially as a drama teacher, when you've not got a lot of resources, and a chair can become anything, but your plays take the audience. You trust that the audience can do that because they can, and a lot of the time, you know, it's all painted out for them, and it doesn't need to be.
You're absolutely right for me, because you'll know about Ken Robinson, I guess, as a drama teacher. And you know, for me, when you go to a class and you're a drama teacher, you're saying to the kids, okay, we've got a chair. Today we're going to do the Iliad. And nobody goes, where's the set?
Yeah.
You know, today we're going to do the Holocaust, and here's two chairs. Oh, okay. It's the words, it's the emotion, it's two planks and a passion. You know, so and what you're actually saying to the audience is, if you're coming to theatre, for God's sake, bring your imagination.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're bleaching out people's opportunities to use their imagination, because we you know, it becomes a passive experience. We're doing it all for them.
Yeah.
And as a drama teacher, I mean, I'm essentially doing now, 40 years later, exactly what I was doing for 5 years as a drama teacher. Yeah. Which is going into a space. I mean, the set for Do I Love You is 4 chairs.
Yeah.
Just 4 chairs. Now we're in Cleethorpes. Now we're on a bus.
Yeah.
And the audience go, yeah, we're on a bus. Fair enough. I'll take that.
Yeah.
You know.
And but that's what excites people as well. Like you say, is from students going through your work to actors to even the audience watching. That's what excites them, because we're involved. We're allowed to do it for ourselves.
Yeah, of course, you're engaged. It's not passive. It's not passive. I always worry when I go into, like I say, and there's some plays, and they're good plays, and at the end of the day, it's about taste. But you go to see a show and somebody's making some, cooking some Heinz beans, and I'm kind of, oh dear.
Yeah.
It's the Heinz beans thing. I remember years ago when I was an academic reading about Antoine Antoine at the Theatre Libre in Paris in 1840. And they did a play there where there were some pigs' carcasses on stage.
Wow.
It was super realism, And all people said is, where do you keep the carcasses when the show's finished? Because that level of reality was kind of too much.
Yeah.
And there's a famous comment, isn't there, what Stanislavski said when he saw Meyerhold in the show. He saw Meyerhold eating a salad, and he was eating this salad so well that Stanislavski said, blimey, he can eat a salad. So you kind of, and sometimes that level of realism becomes too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so and that's an artistic choice, really.
Yeah, it is. And John, honestly, I could talk to you all day. It's absolutely fascinating, but I'm aware you're a very busy man. You've got a lot to be getting on with all of these shows going on. So thank you so much for your time. I know that I'm going to be coming along. We've got Do I Love You, the brand new John Godber play at home from the 10th of April. And then we have the classic Bouncers at the Octagon Theatre in Bolton from the 9th of April. Come along, we will see people there. Thank you so much, John, and all the best.
Thank you.
Will I be